Good morning and welcome to the Homebuyers Hour. My name is Charlie Belfontaine, and you are listening to a real estate show that's geared towards client advocacy and safe home ownership. This show is pre-recorded on Wednesday morning between 10 and 11, and it airs Saturday morning on WCPT AM 820, where the facts matter. Live broadcast will be on our Facebook channel. If you're watching on our Facebook channel now, thank you. You can find that by searching Facebook for the Homebuyers Hour. Like the page and you'll be notified each time we go live. If you're having any issues with your current home or you want to share good or bad experiences with the real estate transaction, please reach out and share. I would like to give a thank you to our producer, Devin Tingle. Devin, say hi, please.
Hello, everyone.
He's the one that makes the magic of radio work for us, so we're very thankful when that happens. On the phone with us is one of our home inspectors. His passion is to help people, and it can be experienced by reading some of the many positive reviews that clients have written about him. He is consistently challenging himself to gain additional knowledge in this ever-changing business. He is a true professional who loves what he does. His name is Dave Engel. Dave, please say hello and share something unique about yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Charlie, thank you for those kind words. Yes, I absolutely do love what I do. Share something about me. I'm passionate about doing this job, but I'm also passionate about the time that I have away. We have a family cottage up in northern Wisconsin that I love to get away when I'm not doing home inspections and sit on the lake. And if I catch a fish, that's great. If I don't catch a fish, that's great too.
Fantastic. So also in the studio with me is a real estate broker with over 10 years of experience in the industry. He is a partner in Extraplexi Real Estate Management, a full-service real estate brokerage firm specializing in both residential and commercial transactions, including property management and development of over 150 plus apartment units and he renovated to date. His unique background and wide range of experience enables him to be a fierce advocate for his clients and offers advice that draws on his personal lessons learned. He believes in building strong relationships with his clients. He believes in absolute transparency and leveraging his established industry relationships with inspectors, lenders, attorneys to assure a seamless transaction for his clients. He is majored in both accounting and economics at Loyola University. He graduated summa cum laude, which is humongous on such a university, and holds an active CPA license. His name is Robert Waz, and I'm thrilled to feature this client advocate on our show. Robert, please say hello and tell us something unique about yourself.
Thanks, Charlie. I'm very excited to be on the show. Obviously, I'm passionate about real estate. I've been doing it for over 10 years. I grew up in a family that did construction and did real estate too, so it's just something that's kind of always been in my blood. Something a little unique or fun about myself. My wife and I are big dancers. And cool. We actually, we do a lot of salsa dancing on the weekends and whenever we have some free time, which sometimes feels like it's less and less nowadays, especially during COVID. But anytime we get a chance to get out, we love to do it.
Nice. So if you're watching this broadcast, Robert, we had a breakfast this morning. We were chatting about a bunch of different stuff. And the biggest thing I wanted to do was bring people on the show that care about their clients and such. And if you don't mind, in full disclosure, you refer us to your clients whenever you have a real estate transaction that goes through. And I'm going to ask you why. Why do you do that?
Well, maybe I should start with how I met you guys, I think, because that really, I guess, sets the stage as to why I recommend you guys to my own clients. This was maybe 5-6 years ago. I was buying a 4-unit flat, apartment building, and I had some bad experiences in the past with inspectors that kind of just rushed through things, and I decided to really spend some time researching on my own. And I found you guys online. I talked with you, Charlie, on the phone back then, and I had a really good conversation, and I felt good about you guys. I hired, your team.
Mm-hmm.
You guys came in, you did a fantastic job. You were extremely thorough. and I felt that I was being taken care of.
Nice.
And that experience was such a good experience that I obviously have now kind of shared you guys with my own clients.
I get a little defensive with many other home inspectors when everybody tries to put a certain group into a certain categories, and you hear comments like, oh, real estate agents, they all want you to be soft on a house. They don't want you to disrupt the deal in any which way. They want you to limit what you're going. And I'm like, that's not true. I'll concede that there are human beings that do that, but there's plenty of human beings such as yourself that want their clients to have that wide open information, and they want them to be upfront with everything. During breakfast, we were chatting that I have a lot of real estate agents that will ask us or my team to do the inspection on their personal home, and maybe their family's homes. But then right now, this time of year, everybody's posting how much money in houses that they sold, how many transactions, how many families. And I'm seeing these same families or same real estate agents up there, and it's like, okay, you sent 2 referrals our way, and they were both related to you, but you're not sending us to your clients. But you don't do that. You send us to your clients as well. All right? Why? And that's one of my favorite questions. What motivates you to do that?
I'm in a somewhat of a unique position because the brokerage firm that I'm a part of, I'm a partner in. It's our small business, and I'm invested in building long-term relationships with my clients. And ultimately, I want the kind of representation I would hope that someone would have, and be that kind of advocate that for me, and I try and emulate that for my own clients. I want someone who's thorough. I want someone who dots the I's, crosses the T's. And I think a big part of being in the real estate brokerage business, you want to make sure that you're spending the time up front with your clients, setting the stage and setting the expectations. I think sometimes maybe some people get overwhelmed when they have such a very thorough report delivered to them from an inspection standpoint. But what I have found is if you spend the time up front really setting the expectations with your client, hey, this is what you can expect. Let's focus on the big hitters. Dave always says this, and I love that he says this because he does a great job setting those same expectations up front in the inspection. He says, I'm focusing on the $5,000 to $5,000 range right now. The things that are going to really cost the big bucks. I want to make sure you're absolutely taking care of that. But he also obviously spends time on the smaller things just so you're informed and you understand what you're getting yourself into when you're buying this home. And then we have that discussion after the fact. We review the report. What are the things we can live with? What are the things we need to really ask for credit for or address?
One of the biggest criticisms that our company gets from real estate agents is that we make such a long list that sometimes they have to talk. This phrase was actually used. They have to talk their clients from jumping off a cliff, and that you get the same list, and our goal is to make a long list. We want to be accurate. We want to put things in the proper perspective. And another home inspector from the south suburbs is watching us right now. His name is Kevin Mathers. And he's a wonderful fella that, he does a lot of training for people as well. So he just gave us a good morning and I sent it back to him. But anyway, what do you do to keep your clients from, quote, jumping off that cliff?
Kind of building, I guess, on that, setting the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years, I put together what I call these quick sheets. They're 1 to 3 page handouts. And I, on the onset of any relationship, right, they're reaching out, they're interested in buying a home, I always take the time to sit down with them, spend usually at least 2 hours, kind of reviewing some of those quick sheets, setting expectations. How does the process look like? Are you familiar with what's expected from a lending perspective? Are you familiar with the home buying process from beginning to end, right? We're going to go see some homes, but that's just the beginning of this, right? Then we do an offer. Then there's negotiation. Then there's the actual contract. Now we have an inspection, attorney review. We have a title company. There's all these moving pieces. And the more time you can spend up front with the client setting those expectations, the better prepared they are, and they're not going to get sideswiped. And, to the point of your specific question about inspections, really, revisiting that before the inspection too. just sitting down with them again, being like, okay, now we're in the inspection step. What can you expect? What does this mean? What are we gonna, cover? And what happens after? And that usually that helps. And that honestly, it solves almost all of the anxiety someone could have about, a 30, page report or whatever.
More than this help. If there's any real estate agent listening, steal that nugget. I mean, that's huge. If you can let somebody be prepared for what's going to happen during this whole process, then that keeps them on the logic thinking side and doesn't let the emotions take over. Once the emotions take over, then we have to go ahead and get them back over to the logic side, and it just gets crazy.
Yep.
Now, we just did a home inspection for one of your clients recently, all right? And Dave, if you don't mind, just share us some of the issues. Give me a couple of the major ones.
All right, so yeah, we ended up doing an inspection in Southport in Chicago. That one actually came out pretty clean. One of the things that we do in our reporting that I think also helps manage some of those fears is our reporting is color coded to the point of red is the serious, and we've got the orange, which is moderate, and then we've got sort of a blue color, which is more informational. And so in this particular inspection, we inspected 110 different items. And even after doing all that, we really only had one serious concern. Everything else was either a moderate or a light. But this one happened to be, a pretty major one. It was to the heating system. The oxygen, we use a combustion analysis as part of our furnace examination process versus just opening up the door and looking at it and saying, oh, that's a pretty blue. The furnace is working and it's heating.
Yeah.
We use technology, and the technology on this one came up with that we had a 13.1 reading on our oxygen. And that's a pretty strong indicator that there might be a pinhole into the heat exchanger. When the fan kicks on, it pushes the excess air that's normally blowing around the house back into the combustion chamber and doesn't get burned because it's after that process, and the equipment picks that up. So we ended up calling out on this one to have it further examined by truly a HVAC tech to confirm or deny whether our suspicions were correct.
And what were some of the numbers on it? Do you remember?
I'd have to go in and look at the rest of it. I believe almost everything else looked good, but give me just a second and I can easily get there. But that was the number that was definitely out of whack.
What was it again?
13.1.
13.1.
For the oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm going to confess that, these are rules that we made up. All right. And we made them up through experience in multiple units that come in there and what was normal and what we found were bad units when we tested them. And mostly it's whenever there's, the fire happens before the heat exchanger. And we know that there's 21% oxygen in the air that we breathe. So the fire is going to use somewhere between 10 and 15% of that oxygen in order to make the fire. And what's going to be left for us is going to be somewhere between 6 and 11%. So once we get over that 11%, somehow, some way, oxygen is being added to the combustion gases afterwards. So usually what happens is there's going to be a hole or a crack in the heat exchanger. And since I have a negative pressure being caused by the inducer fan, and that's going to be on the inside of the heat exchanger, and when the circulation or the blower fan is running, that's going to be on the outside of the heat exchanger. So air is going to flow into the heat exchanger, and that's going to add that oxygen. And that combustion analyzer that we use, we can see that. And it's more, like Dave said, than just looking at the flame and seeing when it's bad. I mean, when that flame turns orange or it's jumping around, it's obviously bad. But that's way bad. That's been bad for a long time. Anytime there's a crack, no matter how minor it is in that heat exchanger, it's dangerous, and the heat exchanger needs to be replaced. So using this piece of equipment, we like to do that because, it gives a more accurate picture of the furnace that we're getting. And if somebody can go in there with the same equipment or do a visual check to see if it's right or wrong, um, that's good. You know, we definitely want to be known or told when we're doing something wrong. But most of the time, in fact, just about every time, I can't tell you when somebody came in there and said, "Yep, it's good." You know, when we say that it's bad. All right. And
Yeah,
go ahead,
it
Dave.
turned
I'm
out to
sorry.
be it turned out to be a 21-year-old furnace, and in this part of the country, we typically know that furnaces last around 20 years. So there's a high likelihood that it was just purely based on age. But
And this is the winter slow season. Robert, I'm sorry. This is the winter slow season, so it's not like there's a lot of pressure on our buyers to buy this. So how did you handle this? How did the negotiation process go?
Yeah, absolutely. And then just to kind of add on, listening to Dave and Charlie just kind of explain what the issue was and what could be the potential root of the cause. This is why I also love having you guys come out and do the inspections for my clients. The way they're talking right now is how they talk on site at the home. They're taking the time to explain it, and not all inspectors are doing that.
No.
They're not explaining to to the client, hey, this is what the problem is, but this is probably what's causing it. This is what, if we're going to have a second party come out and, a licensed HVAC technician, this is what they need to look out for. This is what we see. And then the more information my client has, the better decision we can make kind of as a group.
Absolutely.
So
thank you.
Regarding the actual, this particular situation, how we handled it. We went ahead and we had we actually scheduled it. They haven't come out yet, but we're going to have a licensed HVAC technician come out.
And make sure that they have a combustion analyzer with them. A lot of companies own them, but they're not in their trucks.
Yeah, or they're just looking at the
office.
flame, like you said. They're like, oh, the flame looks fine. It's like, sure, it looks fine, but are you testing it to make sure that in this case, are the oxygen levels reading normally?
Or that there's no carbon monoxide coming through the circulation air. Just because we're not getting carbon monoxide in the house doesn't make the furnace safe.
Exactly.
All right. So right now you're doing further research. You're verifying what we're doing. You haven't really been able to negotiate for anything on that one
and
yet.
Based on that, I think that's when you can have a better negotiation discussion because you're more informed too. And what I mean by that is that HVAC technician may say, this is solvable. I know where the crack is. I know where the pinhole is. This is an easy fix. Or they might say, look, guys, we got to get a new furnace. This is not good. It's already at the end of its useful life.
Yeah.
Let's bite the bullet. This is really the right way to go about this. And, it's an interesting time in today's market, especially with, the demand is so high, the supply of homes is so little. So you really want to take the time to kind of take that step back, talk with your client, try and take as much of the emotion out of it. Let's talk about this logically. I mean, I always say, but sleep on it. Always sleep on it. Whatever it is. If you're going to submit an offer, sleep on it. I never let my clients submit an offer the same day unless they absolutely insist on it.
And why not?
Because their emotions can get the best of them.
There it is.
Right? They're excited. They're like, yes, let's go. I'm so happy. And I'm going to be the biggest advocate for you. If you want to go, I will absolutely do it. But what I always advocate for at the same time is just do me a favor, sleep on it. If you're this excited in the morning, let's run with it. But let's not make this an emotional decision. Let's make this also a logic-based decision.
Without a doubt. And a lot of people don't realize that. The human brain, well, maybe some people can, but for most people, the human brain cannot think emotionally and logically. And I always kind of reflect that back on me. And I'm doing everything, in my life where I really don't want to lose my temper. I don't want to let my emotions dictate my actions. I want to keep everything logic, and it's not the end of the world. That's the bottom line. I mean, I think we could share this. What is the sale price of that home? If you don't remember, give me an estimate.
We're at, I believe it's around $292, roughly, give or take. That's where we ended up at.
So round up to $300 for whatever it's worth. And a new furnace, is probably going to be in the $3,000-$4,000 range, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yep.
So $300,000 home, and $3,000-$4,000 repair, it's not necessarily the end of the world.
Exactly.
All right. And everything kind of has to do with powers of negotiation, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I still want to talk about more things that were going on with the house. So, Dave, was that the only thing that you found or anything else?
That was the biggest thing that was wrong with the house. The There was again typically some minor, and this is one thing that I always also try to educate people on when they're buying a home that's been lived in for a while is some minor wall damage and this, that, and the other thing, and those are all simple, easily repairs. Now we look at a house differently if it's been recently rehabbed and things like that. But in this case, this one had, um, you know, not gone through that process and had, sort of that lived-in look a little bit.
There was an interesting home a little while back that Dave helped with the inspection on too, in Bannockburn in one of the suburbs. If you remember that one, that was a fun one, Dave. Super unique home, very unique, really cool. But it was kind of one of those glass houses. And I really mean that. The home had about 100 windows.
Oh my
and
gosh.
they were all custom sized windows. They're humongous windows. Beautiful home. However,
And Bannockburn's not a cheap neighborhood.
No, it's
Those
not.
are $1 million plus homes.
Yes, they are. And this home had 60 windows, and they disclosed this to us up front. 60 homes that have been compromised, that either moisture was getting through or whatever it might be. But Dave was thorough. We went on the roof. We identified tons of issues on the roof. Obviously, we knew about the windows, but we also took a second look at those, and being able to have that list of like very material items, the roof, the windows. I think one of the furnaces was having issues too, if I remember correctly. We were able to negotiate a very, very significant credit in that scenario.
Nice.
But it was because we had such a thorough report and we had that information to back us up.
And the numbers.
Exactly, and the numbers.
We need to have the pictures. We need to have the videos. We need to have equipment that's going to show what it is we're trying to say or basically prove our opinions. You remember that house, Dave?
I absolutely do. That one, back to our report, how we color code things. That one had 15 items that we considered serious concerns with action needed, and it was an absolutely beautiful location. It was a beautifully done, unique home. It had all these different wings coming off at different angles. I mean, it was like you were in nature. I mean, there were trees everywhere on this thing. And from that standpoint, when you first pull up to it, you're looking at, oh, this is a beautiful home. This is where I want to be. And, but yes, 60 of the, and I'm going to say 100 plus windows were failed. And these windows were like 3 foot wide by 10 foot tall. And that was just the bottom half.
Those
of
are
the window,
huge windows.
Yes.
Yeah, and they had then another window that was 3 foot by 5 foot above it. I mean, this was in the living area when you were sitting there and looking out. I mean, it was truly like you were sitting outside. The owners of this home, I believe, the sellers, were also the original construction people of it, and so they this was done during COVID, so they couldn't really distance themselves. So they were walking around the house. They were trying to be in different areas, but of course they're hearing what we're there, and they would come back and, oh, we did this because of this and this because of this. But so they had a passion of the house was still their baby, but when you really looked at it, there was back up on the roof, they had several skylights that had either completely tarred over or just all the seams were all tarred and dried and cracking. One of the chimneys actually had a football-sized hole in the top of the wooden crown that looked like a raccoon had dug its way into at some point in time. There were just again a gorgeous, gorgeous home, but had not seen repair for a long time.
And you made me think about something. We were having a discussion in a home inspector Facebook group about when deals get canceled and emotions that are involved in that. And one person was, putting up on the Facebook that he got a deal killed and it was within 5 minutes. Now, I didn't read it as he was happy about it, all right? I more read it was something was serious that he saw right away, brought to the client right away, and the client felt that that was too much for them, to handle and stuff. So, and Dave, I'm going to put this back to you. What's your take on, telling people, or if the sellers are there and they hear this? Because, I have the mindset that this is their home, their castle, and most people take a lot of pride in what they do and the repairs that they make. But sometimes they're done wrong, all right? And somebody's going to have to fix it if it's not going to be done right. And the question always comes down to how much is it going to cost and who's going to pay. So, Dave, if you don't mind, what's your approach when somebody's listening to this about explaining these issues to our clients or anyone else involved?
Well, again, if I recall it, this one was the inspection was actually done in November of 2020, and I believe that Robert, I just looked it up online, and it does look like it closed in February of 21. I don't know if that was with your client or with someone else.
That was with my client. We did end up closing on it.
Excellent. Congrats on that. So they were an elderly couple, Charlie. I think that they themselves realized that, because as they said, they disclosed that 60 of the windows had broken seals and all that sort of stuff. So they didn't take a lot of offenses to what was found, and I think, quite frankly, a couple of the things that were found they were surprised of, and just because they hadn't had somebody out there to do the work, or the people that did the work, they were of an age that they couldn't get back up on the roof and verify if it was done properly or not.
Fair enough.
I'm going to say that some of the ways that things were repaired on the roof, that I don't want to say that somebody maybe took advantage of them, but they did a job to sort of stop the leak, but didn't really fix it the way that it should have been done. So I don't put that back on the sellers. I put that back on that they ended up not getting a reliable source, or it came down to that the source said, this is going to be a $10,000 fix, and they came back and said, well, what can you do for $5,000? Obviously we weren't part of that negotiation, so pretty hard to tell.
And I'm gonna have Robert expand on that. But the bottom line is this: it goes back to what Robert was saying before about emotions and logic. If we say stuff that's insulting or an insulting way to the seller of the house, and in today's world, there's cameras in everywhere, and there's a lot of people that will record what we're doing, and those cameras are so tiny, we don't know. So, we always have to be very professional, very polite, and I always go back to Mrs. Molesky. I don't know why I remember her. She's my third grade teacher. And she said, don't blame anybody for doing anything. It's, because if you point your finger and you blame someone, there's 3 of those bad boys coming back at you. So, but Robert, how did you, on that house, what were your thoughts about your clients? How did you keep them on the logic side? And how did you coach them through the negotiations?
There's a couple unique circumstances with this home. Like Dave already alluded to, the sellers had built the home themselves, so there was a little of an emotional attachment, right? It was their baby. So there was, on the seller side, I would say, a element of irrationality, and it took a little work to get them to where they needed to be to understand the seriousness of some of these issues. This wasn't just a $5,000 furnace, and not to $5,000 furnace is still a lot of money.
A lot of money.
But we were talking about a $25,000 to $30,000 roof. We were talking about
more sometimes,
and we were talking about $30,000 worth of windows, and that's just 2 of the major things that were identified.
And that's $60,000-$70,000, and there's some people that's their entire house.
Yes,
in some neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, and that's a great point, because what we had to do with what I was kind of helping facilitate with, really, the sellers were the difficult part of this puzzle. I had spent time with the buyers setting the expectations. Hey guys,
Good.
like, they've already disclosed some things to us. They know the windows are not in good shape. They said they don't think the roof is in the best shape, and we found out it was in really rough shape.
Sorry.
And we spent the time going back and forth with the sellers, but we had a little bit of leverage in a unique way. The home had been sitting on the market for 2 years.
Okay.
People were afraid of the windows
Yeah.
because they were telling people about the windows up front. Well, I spent time with my clients up front saying, hey, these are the windows. I talk with the agent. This is how much they got quoted to replace the windows. So they already knew. They went in with the expectations that this is not cheap to begin with. And with that understanding, with everything we found out during the inspection, it was a combined between price reduction and credit. It was a $50,000 reduction.
Wow.
Now that's not
I know
typical.
it's unusual.
That's
I know.
very significant. That's rare. I've only have had it happen twice where the amount gets adjusted by quite that much. But the issues were of that serious of a nature where it was possible. And the home had been sitting 2 years on the market. And it's like you start explaining carrying costs, holding costs, right? You still got to maintain this home. You still got to pay the taxes on this home.
And a home that
Insurance.
size, that's a lot of tax money.
Exactly. So it's like the longer this thing sits on the market, you're still spending money to own this home.
And the market was still hot then.
It was, and this was like, when that fleeing to the suburbs had started.
Yes.
Right. COVID was, 6 to 7 months in, and people were like, oh, okay, like we need more space. We're working from home, and people started to look more in the suburbs. So this was like on the very, cusp of when that started to really pick up.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of hit it right before, thankfully we had seen the home a little while beforehand. They thought about it, they placed the offer. And interestingly enough, I've become very good friends with these clients.
Nice.
And I see them regularly. And they said the agent representing the sellers called them roughly a month ago, asking them, do you want to sell the house? Because she has someone who's interested in buying it. And apparently, for quite the premium.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we love the home too much. And then it was funny because the husband says like, you should have asked them how much. There's always a price. There's always a price. But it kind of talks about what's going on in the market right now.
Right.
Where before people were hesitant, all of a sudden now people are rushing to buy. But that's also where it comes back to kind of client advocacy, taking the time to really explain things. You don't want to make an emotional decision. You do want to understand what's going on in the market.
Keep repeating that, please.
Exactly.
Don't make an emotional decision. No. Stay on the logic side.
Exactly. You can understand that the market is hot, and you're going to have to be aggressive. And those are good expectations to set with a client. You're going to probably have to go over list price to get the deal done. But that doesn't mean you're going to waive the inspection, or you should waive the inspection. No. You should still have your inspection. You should still make sure you're prepared. Right? You still need to do all those other due diligence things to make sure that you have a safe transaction and you can close properly. And you're not going to have regrets, but buyer's remorse after the fact.
Going in there, eyes wide open, knowing what you're getting. And if you want to accept it, then accept it. That's fine.
Yep.
It's when you get those unpleasant surprises a month, 2, 3, or even a year into moving in the house. And then all of a sudden you're like, why didn't they tell me this? Why was this being kept a secret from me? Which is, we get asked all the time, why do you guys want to make such a long list? Dave, how many issues were in that house in Bannockburn total?
So total there was, let me get back to that page.
Good, medium, and poor, everything.
Yeah, I'm going to say it was the pretty close to about 54. I think
that's quite a bit, And we've had where we were up to 75 and 100, at times on issues that going in there. So, the whole idea is to make a list and let the client know where we're going. Now, I really love talking about defects in houses and how they get handled, but I want you guys to know a little bit more about Robert Waz. And Robert, if you don't mind, I'd like you to just tell us about your company. Tell us everything that you do and what makes you guys unique and why you have a passion for this business.
Sure. So I am one of the partners of Extraplexy Real Estate and Management. There's really 3 of us that are kind of the main partners.
And where's that corporation located?
Our main office is based out of Franklin Park right now. We have a warehouse there because we don't just we're a full service brokerage company. So what does that mean? We do residential and commercial transactions. So that's kind of where I come in. I do a lot of the brokerage side of the business. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of my sweet spot. We have one of the other partners, Marcin. He does all of the property management. So we have a whole arm of the company that We buy, renovate, and hold apartment buildings.
Oh, wow.
And when we say renovate, we're not talking like very basic cosmetic renovations. The majority of our projects are true gut rehabs. We take it down to the studs,
Wow.
reframe back out, new plumbing, new electric, new HVAC, the whole shebang. And then the third partner, Paul, he oversees all the construction. And we all bring something a little bit different to the table, and that's, I think, what kind of makes us unique, but also having that wide range of experience, where everyone has different experiences that we've all learned from. And trust me, we have fallen flat on our face more than once before.
You're not alone.
But you learn from those experiences,
Right.
and you hope you can share some of those experiences with, in my case, with my clients, so that they're also better prepared and they can avoid some of those mistakes that I've made and we've made.
I smiled a little bit when you said it was in Franklin Park, because that's where I was born and raised.
Oh, look at that.
60131. I can still remember the zip code. And yeah, we lived there when our area code was 312. I hope I'm not dating myself too far, but I believe there's still 708. So yeah, I grew up at Scott and Schiller.
Oh, nice.
And stuff like that. I'm sorry, but go more. Tell me more, because this show is going to be broadcasted on WCPT AM 820 at 6 o'clock in the morning on this coming Saturday. And not everybody's going to be able to see what's going on here on the Facebook Live, and you're going to also be able to see the podcast afterwards and see this video afterwards. So give me more details, phone numbers, emails, websites, please.
Absolutely. So the best way to get a hold of us is through email, really. It's the quickest way to reach us. It's the quickest way for us to respond. There's two main emails for the company, at least. Extraplexy at Gmail, which is exterplexy@gmail.com. And then if you're trying to reach me directly, because that Extraplexy Gmail is kind of a catch-all, and then it gets delegated out to whomever is the responsible
But
party.
all three of you monitor it.
Yes, all three of us have access to it and monitor.
And you're pretty good about getting back to people right away.
Yes.
That is so important.
And because we have a property management arm as well, we are very on top of that email box, because we also have tenants who reach out to their, and maybe the furnace went out, whatever it might be, in one of the apartments. So we're very much on top of that inbox. But if you're trying to get directly through me and you want to kind of skip over the catch-all, it's WAZ, real estate group at gmail.com. That'll go directly to me.
Nice.
But moving away kind of from just the how to contact us, what does our business do a little more, and just kind of talking on that. We don't, because we are able to do all these different facets. It's all real estate related, but I think being able to have these kind of different departments really allows me to spend more time with clients and focusing on building the relationship with them. So what do I mean by that? Not to talk ill of other agents, but some agents, the agent business might be their only source of income. I'm in a unique position where we have these rental properties as well. There's a source of income through that. We have a construction piece of the company as well. I want to treat my clients how I would like to be treated if I was, on the client side. And I'm not, there's those ABCs, always be closing. I'm not in that mindset. I want to make sure that my clients are aware, informed, and know as much as they can. And I'm able to do that because I'm not reliant 100% on, just agent or commission income. And I think it makes me a better agent.
It makes you a better person.
I appreciate that. It's very nice.
But that's the important thing. It's being a good person, and then learning your trade well, and helping, and just a desire to help other people, and that's what you exude.
That's very kind of you.
Can you share? I know you have you got like an open house that's coming up, and what is that all about, please?
Yeah, absolutely. This at the end of the month, the last Saturday of the month, the 29th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're hosting what's called a construction open house. We call them. It's a great way to meet us, meet our team, learn more about what we do and our project. And what we do, what we're going to be specifically doing is there's a property that we're about to start the full renovation on. It's located at 1220 South Christiana Avenue in Chicago.
And I'm going to post this up on our Facebook page. We're going to give the address, the date, and everything
Awesome.
else. We'll put that in the comment section of this video that's being put there. I interrupted you again. I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead with the address one more time,
Great.
please.
1220 South Christiana Avenue in Chicago. It's in the North Lawndale neighborhood of Chicago.
Okay.
It's a 7-unit full gut rehab. There's an affordable component, so we're working with the city
Nice.
to actually some of the units will be earmarked so that you cannot exceed 50% of the area median income to rent in some of
Okay.
these units. So we get very involved in the communities we're a part of.
Nice.
A lot of the renovation work we do is in kind of lower income neighborhoods. And that's who we are ultimately. We're relationship people. And
But you're also improving the neighborhood, improving the value, and Lawndale you mentioned. And no, I'm not trying to be malicious. I know it was a depressed neighborhood. I know we see it in the news a lot, but it's changing. We used to see Bronzeville, and that's changing. Hyde Park as a teenager or young adult, I was afraid to go there.
Yeah.
And my goodness, you walk into that place and the neighborhood is just beautiful, I think what you're doing is fantastic.
And
I love
honestly, it's a great way for people to come to the neighborhood.
Yes.
To your point, right? People are afraid. They hear Lawndale on the news and they're terrified.
Right.
Well, come see what we're doing with the neighborhood. Come learn a little bit more about our business and what we're doing. And the more people can see the community and get acclimated or understand that really it's not as scary as it's made out to be.
Yeah.
Maybe we've seen more people start like buying 2 flats in the neighborhood, starting to renovate single family homes. That's encouraging for us too, because the more homeownership you can have in the community, the more people are invested in the neighborhood, the more involved they become. It's just a win-win overall.
It's what is it called? Neighborhood pride or home ownership pride or something like
absolutely.
that. And it's contagious. And plain and simple. When one person starts doing it, and then all of a sudden the neighborhood lifts up. And when the neighborhood gets better and better, what else happens?
Yeah. Well, prices appreciate, right?
Yeah.
And that's great for our business too, of course.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with making money.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with house values going up,
And it's good for the whole community. I think that sometimes people lose sight of that, or not lose sight of that, but there are a lot of homeowners today in Lawndale, and we all need to rise. Rising tide raises all boats.
Amen.
And we gotta work together to improve the neighborhoods. And you gotta kind of walk the talk, right? There's a lot of people out there that talk about, I want to help, in whether it's people who are low income, underprivileged. Put your money where your mouth is. We've invested. At this point, we're at, I believe, right around 75 units in North Lawndale alone.
That's a lot.
And we started back in 2013 when the neighborhood was really, really rough.
Yeah.
And it still has a way to go. Don't get me wrong. But
no, but you're giving people good, safe,
affordable homes.
Affordable housing.
Yes,
absolutely. And everybody should have that. If we do what we can, it helps the world.
Exactly.
One little house at a time. Dave, give me another house if you don't mind. I love throwing Dave right under the bus.
Put you on the spot.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm sitting here enjoying the conversation, and then you make me have to work.
That's me. That's what I do.
Absolutely. So we also did one in Aurora. It was a condo unit that we ended up doing there, which obviously we've talked about the Bonic burn and that sort of stuff. Robert, you obviously fill whatever the niche of your client is. The Aurora home really only had, again, one serious issue. The condo complex looked like it was maintaining the building really well. And again, one of the conversations, and I think Robert complimented me on it once before as well, was, when I am inspecting a condo unit, I even though they may sign up for the condo discount, which we do, I still look at the buildings in general to see, are they maintaining it? Because not only is our client and his client buying their unit, but they're buying in this area, and you want to make sure that the HOA that they're going to be joining is maintaining all the structures to make sure that their asset doesn't drop in value. and this one only had an exterior outlet that had classic GFCI that was older and was no longer responding. It was wired properly, but it just wouldn't trip. So, a quick $35 outlet and a $250 electrician charge, and they probably got that fixed. But that was again another beautiful, beautiful little area that we ended up going to.
Yeah, and that one was super clean for the most part, the inspection. And this was kind of an interesting transaction because I was representing an investor. So this was their first investment property.
Cool.
Which, given kind of the experience I have with the business we have, I think it really helps me inform clients above and beyond what your typical broker might be able to do. Like,
but don't you feel more useful when it's first time?
I do.
You feel like you could help them more
and inform them so much more. Yeah. And this was not only, it was the first purchase they were making ever. They were renting still for their own, personal sake.
That's something.
But their first purchase was an investment property. So you got a first time home buyer, but the angle is to rent this out. Yeah. But again, take the time up front. We spend time running the math. He's like, Robert, how do you look at these properties yourself? Okay, well, I sit down and I just run the numbers. The math doesn't lie.
Is that a proprietary thing that you have, or you? And I don't want to put you on the spot. If you're not comfortable, you're not comfortable, sharing that. But what do you mean by the math?
It's nothing revolutionary. It's literally taking the time to sit down and run your expenses, run your projected rents. Okay, how much are your cash outflows? What are your cash inflows? Are you going to break even? Are you going to actually have some cash left over to address any maintenance issues that may come up? And what are your goals? Different people have different goals. Sometimes people will buy a 2-flat just because they need to park their money.
Okay.
And they're okay just breaking even, paying their mortgage. They don't need to make any money on it.
Yeah.
And they're buying it for the potential appreciation value of the property itself.
Okay.
If you're looking to cash flow, though, we got to target certain neighborhoods and in certain areas, whether it's suburbs or in the city, because certain parts of the city, you will never cash flow, period. Lincoln Park, for example. If you want to buy a 2-flat in Lincoln Park, you can expect to have negative cash flow. You're not going to make any money on it.
So you're going to try to make the money on the value of the house.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the appreciation at that point. And that's okay. But again, you need to, as a broker, from my angle, I always try and spend as much time up front with my client, understanding what it is that they're looking for, making sure that I understand their expectations and that I help guide them through that process. If they are expecting to cash flow and they want to find it in Lincoln Park, you're looking for a needle in a haystack.
My daughter rented a 4-bedroom unit with 3 of her friends there. Each one of them is paying like $1,000 a month. $4,000 for an apartment every month. And it's like, let's go buy a house,
Exactly. And the crazy thing is, though, I don't know, let's just, I don't know if it's like, let's say it's a 3-flat, though, right? You're going to get a $4,000 rent in Lincoln Park for a 3-4 bedroom unit. You will, especially if it's nicely renovated. But looking at it from the landlord perspective or the investor perspective, that doesn't mean you're gonna come out ahead just because you're getting $4,000 rent. What's your mortgage?
What's your insurance?
What are your taxes? What's your insurance? What are all these other costs you're incurring? Your utilities.
The condition of the property. Exactly. What repairs that we have to start budgeting?
Correct.
A lot of people don't do reserve studies, even on their own property, and they don't put things in line to figure out, okay, my furnace is 5 years old. That's great for now, but I need to start. I need to start preparing. Even if it's 15 years later, for the average lifespan of a furnace, we need to realize that eventually it's going to go.
Exactly, and it's even more important in an investor scenario. Well, it's always important. Don't get me wrong, but when you're buying as an investor, the cosmetics are important. But if your cash flow is already tight, and you don't have the cushion to handle the furnace that's gonna, go, you're stretching yourself really thin, and you gotta, like Dave loves to say, the 5 to 5,000 plus. You gotta know what those things are, and you gotta prepare for them, and you gotta have that money set aside, because if it goes wrong, your tenant's gonna need heat like ASAP. They're not gonna wait around for you to fix the furnace. It needs to be fixed, same day or next day at the latest.
Now, this morning at breakfast, I threw at you those 3 words about construction.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you a test. Do you remember what they were?
Cheap, good, fast, right? You can only have 2 of the 3.
You only get 2 of the 3, good, fast, and cheap. I am going to repeat that over and over again. And that's one of the drawbacks about the home inspection process, because When we come in there and we evaluate the house and we document what the issues are and we put them in there, now the negotiations start. Guess which one you don't have?
Exactly.
So now you're stuck with either not good or not cheap,
Right.
one of the two. And that's why it's always a good idea to get that information ahead of time, find out what a good home inspector is going to find, and correct it, and that way you got time so that you can get things for a lower cost. You can get more bids on items. How we doing, Devin? 3 more minutes, and then we're going to be ending the show. So I'm going to give a little plug for our company right here. It is Chicagoland Home Inspectors. We have 2 offices, one in Northbrook and one in 1 Mag Mile. Our main website is The Home Inspectors, and that's plural, ORS, and it's a .com. And our phone number is 312-544-9180. And I want to read something to you that I pulled off the internet a little while ago, and I want to see if you remember this, Robert. I did a lot of research online and decided to go with Chicagoland Home Inspectors. I requested a quote in the morning and received a call from Charlie quickly thereafter explaining everything to me. I had a good gut feeling about this company after such a quick and thorough response that I decided to move forward with them. Roger came out to the building and spent a full 4 hours, and you're going to get a bunch of real estate agents rolling their eyes on that one. Spent a full 4 hours very thoroughly inspecting everything. He answered all my questions, pointed out potential issues. He was very professional. I received a full report later that day and could not have been happier with the level of service provided. These are generally good people that really take time to ensure their clients are happy, and I would recommend them. Do you remember that?
You found my review from back in the day.
When we did your home inspection.
That's right. That's when I first reached out to you guys.
And I think that
ago.
says a lot about you as a person. If you're comfortable with us and you would choose us to do yours, and that you offer that to your clients and such, you offer that to your clients and you want them to have that same level of protection. Well, A, I'm saying thank you from our company point of view, but B, more importantly, I'm saying thank you for treating your clients as well as we want to treat your clients. All right. We believe that it's their money, their home, their choice. All right. And our job is to help them make a good, logical, smart home buying decision. All right.
It's one of the biggest financial investments they'll ever make. It should be treated with that respect.
Without a doubt. So I'm going to start ending the show right now. Next week, we're going to have Quentin Green, another real estate agent that cares for his job. And I'm really excited.
Cares for his client?
Say again?
Cares for his client.
He does care for his clients. What did I say?
Job.
Cares for his job? I apologize. Thanks for correcting me. All right. But I want to thank you for listening in again. AMA 20. Please like our Facebook page if you can. And other than that, thank you. And you have a wonderful day.
Awesome.
Wrap the show.